Is it okay if we do another dramione? Yeah. Hi friends, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. And of course, if you read the title, you know that we have another dramione incoming. I just suddenly wanted to talk to you guys about all of my favorite and icks when it comes to dramione fanfiction, things that I love and tend to typically seek out in dramione fanfiction, as well as things that I hate and tend to avoid. I feel like you guys can already draw the connection with my taste from my recommendation list already. I say things like, this is right up my alley, these are everything that I'm dying for in dramione fanfiction a lot in my videos, so I may as well just consolidate everything in a video for you guys. And then it came to my mind that I should probably talk about my ick too, so that you guys know why I avoid some. And then the third reason is I just need an excuse to do another dramione yap, because I love yapping about dramione, and based on your reactions in my last dramione yap, it seems like you guys also like me yapping about dramione too. It goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway, that everything that I'll be mentioning in this video is my own personal preference, so please don't take it personally and come for my throat, okay? So let's get the video started, baby. The first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is trope, because I feel like that plays a big part in my decision-making process with reading dramatic fanfiction or choosing a fic to read. My favorite trope with dramatic fanfiction is very specific, it's very niche, and I don't even know if it can classify as a trope or not, but I just love it whenever they have a secret relationship, especially at Hogwarts, away from everyone's eye, away from the main event or the critical path of the Harry Potter series. And I love to see how the events of canon would play out, had Draco and Hermione been together, have feeling for each other, and have a little bit of a secret going on in the background. I love it whenever they start their relationship off of a very specific moment at Hogwarts, because they notice the other person, because they keep an eye out on the other person. I love it when neither one of them want to address the situationship that they got going on, that they are keeping secret from all of their friends to use the other person as like a secret temple, a secret sanctuary. I know I sound like a broken record right now, okay, but Osculum Annum is the manifestation of this trope for me personally. It sums up everything that I just told you, which is why it is my ultimate dramatic comfort read. I'm very biased, but I feel like regardless of my own personal opinion, it is a very great piece of fanfiction. So if you guys haven't checked that out yet, I highly recommend you do so. Now, before I stumble upon Osculum Annum, there was a story that always lives in a corner of my heart that I always go to whenever I have a bad day, and I just know that it will make me feel instantly better. That is If Then by Sante. It is also everything that I want to read with dramatic fanfiction. They just started their relationship at the 6th year at Hogwarts. You guys know me, you guys know my obsessions with Hermione. My whole obsession with Hermione start with the Morton TR scene at Hogwarts in the 6th year in the Half-Blood Prince. I have a very hard emotional attachment to 6th year at Hogwarts, and If Then just deliver. It is written in a very poetic way, in a very heartbreaking way, because we know that they love each other, but they can't be together because canon. So if that's what you guys are looking for right now, if you want to see how the Harry Potter series would turn out differently, if Draco and Hermione has a little bit of something going on, recommend checking out Osculum Annum by Madiofi, as well as If Then by Sante. Now, another trope that I really love to read with Hermione fanfiction is forced proximity. I'm not fussy about how they are forced to be together. It can be a marriage law story, it can be that they are trapped together somewhere, it can be that they are assigned on a mission together. I just feel like there needs to be a little bit of a catalyst to sometimes intensify or even unveil the chemistry between Draco and Hermione, because we all know that they are the most intelligent idiots, they are the biggest idiots ever, and they are probably the most stubborn individuals that we ever come across. Sometimes they need to be forced to learn about the other person. I just love to see when they come to the realization that the other person makes a great teammate, how they are just perplexed by the other person just present a challenge to them because they have found their equal. That's what I'm looking for with forced proximity, and of course everything else that come with it, like pining, realization of feelings, and then denial of feelings. All of that line I feel like are just very masterfully crafted by dramatic fanfiction author into every single piece of forced proximity fic for us to read. I've already made a whole video on that trope already, and I love every single piece of work that I put in that video. And then I'm currently reading Bloody, Slutty, and Pathetic by What Murder, which is another forced proximity story marriage law trope. Of course, I'm going to report to you how that fic goes, because we all know that it is the newest it girl on the block for dramatic fanfiction, so it is the hottest summer read for this year. When it comes to ick, there are a few tropes that I almost always avoid when it comes to dramatic fanfiction. The first being age gap or age difference between Dramione. I've already mentioned it earlier, but my whole obsession with Dramione started out in 6th year during that Amor TR scene that we all know about. So it's very ingrained in my head that they are equal, they are peers, they're in the same age group, and you guys know how much I love them being at Hogwarts too. I just cannot wrap my head around the concept of one of them being older. The second thing that I tend to avoid with Dramione fanfiction, if I can, is if they have a toxic relationship. I have already read stories that their relationship are just completely toxic before, and I even fall in love with some of them, but I will avoid this if I can because I just find myself being too invested in the relationship development of Draco and Hermione. And I almost always hate it when they try to one-up each other emotionally. If they are trying to get back at each other and play games, I'm just too invested in their bond emotionally that I find myself having a hard time completing those stories. Follow up on kind of like that anti-tender love, I tend to avoid it when they use intimacy as a solver to all of their problem. I love it when Draco and Hermione are presented by the author as a challenge to the other person, and intimacy can be absolutely an aspect of that challenge, and dare I even say intimacy is a part that cannot be missed from that challenge. But I just hate it whenever their relationship is reduced down to just intimacy, but whenever they just use intimacy as a solver to their other problem, which are unsolved by the way, obviously, I just find myself having a hard time completing those stories, tend to drop out of those stories instead. Now that we are done with trope, let's talk about length. I don't think length has ever played a big part in my decision-making process whenever I come to choosing a fanfiction to read, but I do find myself more excited to read stories that are around 70 to 80,000 words. I've already mentioned it a couple times in my video before, but that is just my sweet spot when it comes to dramatic fanfiction. I feel like 70 to 80,000 words would provide the author with enough real estate, enough length to let their plot thicken and to give us a full character arc, but at the same time, it's not draggy and it's not too much of a time commitment for someone who gets bored so easily like myself. I do say that though, but you guys know that I read stories like Manacle, Remain Nameless, even stories like Measure of a Man or Dear Jacket that are around like 600,000 words. Objectively speaking though, I feel like a story is perfect around 120 to 180,000 words because I feel like that's the perfect language for my fanfiction. I would read a story if the premise is interesting enough to me without caring about how long that story is. If it's good enough, then the length doesn't matter. That's what she said or whatever. Now let's talk about the era. What is you guys' favorite era when it comes to dramatic fanfiction? If we're not counting the first instance where I share with you guys that I love it when their stories start at Hogwarts and it remain hidden, I would love to read. As of right now, the most interesting thing to me is post-war. One of my favorite instances with post-war is 8-year story. The second instance of post-war that I love to read is if they just run into each other as an adult. And of course, they can be co-worker too because that ties back into the forced proximity that we have talked about. I do feel like Draco and Hermione share this unique connection, having gone through the war together in a way, and I feel like having gone through the war changed people, and they're not strangers to each other, but I don't feel like they get an opportunity to learn about the other person. So I'm just not fussy when it comes to post-war, but I feel like the majority of the story that I read these days is post-war stories, so I feel like that's my favorite trope as of right now. I feel like I truly went through phases with dramatic fanfiction, you guys. When I first started reading dramatic fanfiction, I would just throw myself into as many wartime stories as there are out there. I would read Isolation by Maxia and Manacle by Sending You, Dragon in the Dark, even darker fic like the Risk and Reward Ratio back to back to back. I just feel like any other type of era with dramatic fanfiction just lacks that edge and the hostility and the enemy to lover aspect of it, of course. But as of right now, after 3 years of reading dramatic fanfiction, I just find myself so emotionally attached to these two idiots. I cannot read them suffer anymore. Like, I cannot be worried about you dying or you getting injured, missing a limb. My anxiety just cannot do it anymore. Don't get me wrong though, I've said this in my video before that I feel like Dramione is in its most glorious form in the wartime setting because that's when the enemy to lover is popping off the most. But for me though, I find myself going toward post-war nowadays when the bulk of the pain is already over. I am very interested in reading angst though, and especially if they are just being stupid type of angst, but that's different from the angst of wartime story, if you know what I mean. I just don't want to feel that burning need to turn the page to see if they're alive or not, so that's why I kind of tend to avoid wartime story these days. I don't know if it's gonna change later on when I'm just fed up with all of the fluff and I want it to be painful again and seek out wartime story or not, but as of right now, it's safe to say that I love post-war story. Okay, next, let's talk about my favorite part of this video, which is the details. I have made 2 whole videos talking about dramatic fanfiction details that I love already, but I feel like those 2 videos cannot cover everything that I love to read with dramatic fanfiction. Obviously, you guys see that I've been reading these 2 idiots primarily, like solely for the past 3 years, so you guys know that I do love reading about their details. That's why I can carry on for so long. But one thing I do want to highlight though is the fact that the dramatic fanfictions authors are so talented. Even though I read these 2 people falling in love in different way at the same time, I'm never bored of the details that we are given by the dramatic fanfiction author. Every single one of them has such a way to write dramatic details that I am just soft on the inside. I love to see their love for each other, see their love popping off between the lines. I love it. Of course, whenever they have their soft touches, of course you guys already know that these include like the thumb on the cheek type of touch, cradling the jaw type of touch, hair tucking behind the ear type of touch, of course like hand touching type of touch, intertwine or whatever that is. Almost like they have to touch each other because they cannot contain their feeling for the other person. You guys know what I mean because you guys read them too, right? I also love it when they are just anticipating the other person's needs and just do it for them without even the other person asking for. Because I have a bad trait, you guys. Let's say I want flower. I don't want to ask for flower because if I get the flower after I ask for it, it's because I asked for it, not because you want to get me flower. So in dramatic fanfiction, I just love it when he's there anticipating her need as well when she is there anticipating his need too, because I just feel like Draco is the type of person that wouldn't ask for anything, but he would be dying on the inside and he would be weeping if Hermione give him like a crumb of affection. But I know that this display of affection needs to be relative and relevant to the story. Of course, Draco in Remain Nameless would display his affection very different from Draco in The Dragon Bride, and I love them both. But in The Dragon Bride, you know, I cannot describe Draco as soft, but his love for Hermione is soft, if you know what I mean. That soft love is what I want to underline, I want to highlight, and what I want to read in dramatic fanfiction. I think to sum it up though, I feel like I'm most interested whenever their love cannot be contained, like it's spilling over the screen for us, tangibly for us to see. I love to see it. Do it. Show, don't tell, okay? Now, let's talk about ick details, okay? Because some of these details are a reason why I dropped our story. And I know it may not be a big deal, but it is a big deal to us. First of all, the name thing. If you guys read dramatic fanfiction, you guys already know the impact and the importance of the Draco and Hermione to us and to them personally. So whenever he calls her anything that's not Granger, if he call her Hermione, it's a done deal for me. And if he call her Hermione in not emotionally challenged moment, not emotionally turmoil moment, why are you calling her Hermione? She's Granger. The only exception that I would make to this rule is for The Fear of Letting Go by Lady Midnight 87. I have made a whole video ranting about Lady Midnight 87 before and The Fear of Letting Go. If you guys want to know why, you guys are welcome to read the story. Next is somewhat of a similar line of thought, is if he used Muggle term. Can you imagine Draco saying the word God instead of Merlin? Like, that bitch is the manifestation of pastness. There's no way that he would use Muggle term. There's no way that he would let off that good reading go. Detail though is not enough for me to drop out the story, but if he keep on repeating the word God, then I swear to God, I'm gonna drop it. The next detail that I feel icky is if the character is cruel or is morally darker than gray. All love morally gray characters, and I understand that during the war setting, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. You do what you have to do and then you mentally torture yourself for it instead of relinquishing in the act of violence. There's a line between morally gray and further than that. Now lastly, I don't know if I'm nitpicking or not around here, but Draco and Hermione cannot be chummy easily or early. They are probably the most stubborn individuals out there as well. So if they lack that edge, they lack that hostility, of course this needs to relate back to like the premise of the story as well, and there are situations where they need to be that way. But I just feel like if without a cause and they are just like friendly to the other person, then I typically just drop out the story. Now let's talk about side character other than Draco and Hermione. I don't think I have an ick side character though. Like, I would read any things that are included in Hermione's story. If someone delightful pops up, then it's just like a bonus to me. So I only have favorite side characters to talk about, you guys. But first of all, we have Theo Darnat. Like, who doesn't love Theo? He's just our puppy when it comes to Hermione fanfiction, especially if he's paired with Harry. Now my second favorite characters, you guys, are Narcissa and Lucius Malfoy. Narcissa, no need to explain, and I would feel like Narcissa is someone that would prioritize Draco's happiness above everything else. Fics usually make Narcissa to be a little bit more acceptable of Hermione's, which I think is aligned with whatever I think of Narcissa in my head. And then Lucius. I think that our fandom just give Lucius the most grace ever and makes him to be this humorous character that I don't know if he deserves to be. But at the same time, like, I appreciate that for Lucius. I just love to see whenever he's unhinged and whenever they are unhinged together and they are trying to play matchmaking between Draco and Hermione. That is just delightful for me to read. Now, my next favorite character can be of a surprise to some of you, but I love to read Harry, especially when he's a little bit crazy. I feel like people don't pay enough attention to Harry to see how unhinged he is, and if he's that know-it-all type of thing, an observant type of friend that catch on very quickly to what's happening between Draco and Hermione, especially again if he is paired with Theo. But I'm not fussy about who Harry is paired with. I just love to read Harry as an individual, so I don't care whoever he's paired with as long as he's crazy enough. Lastly though, my most favorite type of side character ever is the elves. I feel like Dramione fanfiction always have a special place for the elves. I feel like every single elf that I've ever come across with Dramione fanfiction is just a delight to read, including Creature, okay? I feel like they add so much character and they add so much depth to the story, and sometimes they reveal bits of information about Draco too that I just love to see because I love to know a secret. So, the elves. Let's talk about my non-negotiable with Dramione fanfiction. I only ever have one non-negotiable, and that is happy ending. I don't care how much you let them suffer, okay? As long as they have a happy ending at the end, I'm almost okay with the story. Almost only seek out story that have the happy ever after tag because it's kind of like an insurance for me, or I would do research. I would do research to see if the ending is happy or not. I already explained it, but I grew this weird emotional attachment to two fictional characters. I will be just sad for days on end, and I'm not reading to torture myself. And one of you guys has recommended a sad ending story to me. I put that on my TBR since 2023, and I still haven't had the balls to start it yet. Or the person who recommended it to me, I'm so sorry, but I'm just a chicken. I cannot do it. That's me as a reader. I would love to know how you guys are as readers too. So drop your favorite and icks in the comment down below for me, okay? So that I can tailor my recommendation list to your taste better. I'm losing my voice again because this is kind of like a second time that I filmed this video because I just keep stuttering. I don't know why, but I just keep stuttering whenever I film video. But I do hope you guys have a good time hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in the next video, okay?